everyone, how you doing today? My name's Kirsty, aka Beth Bookish, and this is my March TBR featuring my updated Adventurer's Path TBR game. I created this game in January 2024 because I loved my old game, which was based off of My Hero Academia, but I wanted to do something that was a little bit more reflective of my reading and my channel. So I decided to draw inspiration from my readathon, the Adventurerathon, and this is where I came up with this board. I essentially took the Jumanji board and added my own symbols and things to it, and I've been playing it pretty much ever since. Now that I'm back in the country, it's time to go through my March TBR, and it's time to return to my game after playing Ren, who is my partner. If you are new here and you don't know, I have a partner called Ren who lives in Australia. I was there for the last 3 months. I do have a playlist of Australia vlogs if you would like to check those out. And while I was there, I was playing their TBR games, but now that I'm home, it's back to my own. I have spent today going through the board, updating things, changing some of my rules. So I thought, as this is the first time I'm playing this in 2025, I would do a bit of a rule refresh as well as tell you what the new symbols and things like that are. Essentially, this is just as a standard TBR game. I roll a dice X amount of times each month, I work my way around the board, and then I complete reading prompts based on where I land. I've set myself a standard of 6 rolls per month. That is the baseline. However, this can increase or decrease depending on various factors. Things that can increase the amount of rolls, which is kind of not what I want. I don't want extra rolls because it's harder to then complete. I used to do it that for every amount that I didn't complete, I had to add a roll. I've changed it this year. So the only thing that will add extra rolls now is through the double up of numbers. So if I roll the same number 3 times, then I have to add an extra roll, and obviously we don't want that. And as happened when I introduced this rule, I ended up rolling 2 numbers 3 times during that round, and I wanted to cry. So I am keeping that rule because I feel like that is a decent rule. It's not going to happen every month. It's not going to be a constant thing, I hope. But it's just a little something that some months means I might have extras. And then to decrease the amount of rolls, I have one option again, and that is every time I complete 3 books in each round, I gain a token. I'm only allowed to have a maximum of 5 tokens, and then I can decrease these rolls by using my tokens to reduce the rolls and only roll smaller numbers, but I will explain that slightly later on. So that's the general gist. 6 rolls. Pick my prompts. Various things can affect how many rolls I do. Now when it comes to the board, I then can gain tokens while playing my game. These little life tokens, I don't have a physical thing to represent them yet, but I'm thinking about maybe using the shells that I bought back from Australia as like my little lives. I'm allowed to accumulate up to 5 at any one time. I can use one single one if I would like to reduce my roll. So if I've got all 5, I can use 1 life per reduction. So I can use a life to only roll 5, or 2 lives to only roll 4 times. I can trade in 2 lives if I'm not happy with a prompt and I would like to choose my own prompt, and it means that I get basically free reign to choose whatever I want. And if I trade in 3 lives, I can restart that month if I'm just really not happy with any of my pulls, or if I'm not happy with the direction of the board, I could trade in 3 lives and just restart that month. And then ultimately I could use all 5 of my prompts to see the end of my pathway, have a sneak peek, and basically decide whether or not I want to continue with that route, and if I so desire I can change my route. The more tokens I pick, the more options I've got to make the game a bit more fun or easy for myself, and can't ever complain about that. And then on the flip side, so that's obviously, like I said, for every 3 books that I complete I gain one of those tokens, but there is also a punishment slightly there. So for every 3 I don't read, instead of last year where I had to add a roll, this year what I have to do is double up, and I've taken inspiration from Ren's TBR gate for this one. So if I have a month where I don't read 3 of my books, then one of the prompts that I pull that month, it's up to me which one, It doesn't have to be the next roll or the first roll. Any of the prompts, I have to choose 2 books instead of just 1 to complete it. So it just means I've got to do double the reading to complete it. So I guess it kind of is the same as adding a roll, but I just thought adding a roll means I get further on the board, which is a reward. So instead it just means I've got to make it harder for myself to complete the prompt to be able to move forward the next time. As far as moving forward and moving around on the board, we have the typical sort of D6 that I'll roll to move spaces, but again, spaces can change on a month by month basis. Every book that I complete, I get to move forward. Every book that I don't complete, I get to move backwards. But there's also extra things on here. Every time I finish a book, I move forward, but it depends on the type of prompt that I read as to how many spaces I get to move forward. Let's talk through the various prompts and how reading these can impact the board. Our general standard prompts on the board, these blank spaces here, will be the standard prompts. For these, we have 5 categories. We have ebook that I have represented with a little potion bottle, because I read ebooks on my Kindle, and what is my Kindle but a little spell book and a little compendium. For queer, I've got queer as a category, which is represented by a little sunshine, a little sun, because for the majority, what is the queer community if not a ray of sunshine and hope? For audiobook, I have got this little flower symbol because I thought flower, nature sounds, sound, audio, and that's how I made that connection. For graphic novel and manga, I didn't really have a link to this. It was just a bow and arrow is a very classic adventurers thing, so I just used that to represent graphic novel and manga. And then we finally have a wild card, which means as long as the book fits the prompt, I get a free bonus. So how these work, if I just complete the main prompt, so let's go with friend pick. So if I read, say, Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan, because Jonah has been encouraging me to read it for years, I think literal years at this point, then I would count that one as just 1 step forward. But if I picked Soul Eater, which is another one that both Ren and Jonah have been plugging for me to read, and I have started, I may continue, I may not. But if I go back to that because they've recommended it, then I would get to go forward 2 spaces because I've completed the main prompt and it fits the bonus. So that's how I can increase for the regular prompts. And then we've got these little special extra bonus prompts. The first of these is going to be these little stars that you can see here that are dotted across the board. These spaces are going to be called the Adventurer's Log. As we've been doing our adventures throughout the rounds of Adventure-a-thon, there are certain characters that probably won't come back, or certain prompts I won't reuse that I really enjoyed, or there might be places and locations and events and things going on that I might not go back to in future rounds. And so that is where these cards come in. I have, for example, one of the character creation rounds. We had a character that won't be making a reappearance in future rounds. So we have the Spy, which is to read a non-fiction or self-development. Because, you know, spies gather intel and have to do research to fit a role. I figured that one would fit. Our very first round of Adventure-a-thon, we went to an island. And so we have places like the Elderglade, and the prompt for that was forests. They're not exactly the same prompts as they were during the rounds. I have fit them more for my game and my reading. But it's just a little... As a lot of adventurers do in various games and in D&D, you keep a little log of the places you've been and the things you've done. And I think it's a really cute little nod back to our previous adventures. So if you have been doing Adventure-a-thon, you can relive some of those memories as well. So that's the Adventurer's Log. If I complete those, I get to move forwards 2 steps on the board. We then have a new addition to the board, which are these little swords. I mean, they look more like daggers, but it's a sharp, stabby thing. And this is going to be called the Adventurer's Challenge. As you may be aware, for 2025 I have chosen a bunch of yearly challenges that I want to take part in. And so I've written down on these pieces of paper the yearly challenges and some of my yearly reading goals. For example, one of my reading goals is to complete 5 series, so I've got Last in Series in here. I've got Bookemon as a prompt. I've got Tracklist Readathon, Beat the Backlist, Sufferathon, all sorts of things in here that reflect the yearly challenges that I'm taking part in. And so if I land on the Adventurers Challenge, one of my prompts must be from one of my yearly goals or challenges. And it's a way to kind of remind myself of what challenges I'm doing and to remind myself to actually keep on it with them and keep tracking them. And we have the little chests here. So there's a little chest there. We've got another one. There's usually a few on the board here and here. These are going to be the Adventurer's chest. Now, if you've played D&D or any kind of game where you end up collecting things, you know that you amass the most random things as an adventurer. And sometimes you look through your inventory and you're like, what even is this? Why is this even here? So that's where this chest is. In here we have all the different prompts. Every single one of these is something that I have to find on a cover. So we might have glasses, we might have jewellery, we might have sword. Some stuff is gear that you would expect an adventurer to accumulate or want in their inventory, and then some is slightly more random. If I complete those prompts, I get to go forward 3 spaces on the board, which is fantastic. But on the flip side, if I don't read them, I have to go back 3 spaces, so you know. But the big ones that have the biggest impact on the board are the tarot card. There is one for each of the pathways, as you can see here, that just look like little cards. But the reason I've gone for this is because last year Ren bought me the most stunning deck of tarot cards. I mean, look at the edges of these, they're just... ugh. And they are absolutely stunning. So if I pick out... always the Pentacles, always. The 7 of Pentacles right here. I just think it's stunning. And so if I draw this prompt, I pick a card from the deck. So say I drew the 7 of Pentacles, I have 2 options. I can either look up the meaning of the card and then find a book that fits the themes, the meanings, and what that card is trying to tell you. Or I can just literally go by what is on the card itself. So for this, we've got the colours are green and blue with brown and yellow. We've got stars for the pentacles. We've got a nest, we've got branches, we've got a bird, feathers. Any element from the card I can then use to find on the cover of a book and read that. So I can either go by the themes or the physical picture. And then the other big one is the little scullies that we've got that I am very terrible at drawing. But we've got our little skulls, which is the Jar of Despair. As every adventurer has their monsters and challenges that they would rather not face and they don't enjoy coming up against, so too do I with books. These aren't books that I don't want to read, obviously. They wouldn't be in my TBR and on my shelves if I didn't want to read them. But they're things like books that I either keep forgetting that I've got, or they're from like Stuff Your Kindle where I maybe be a bit more reluctant for them, or they've been on my TBR for forever and I need to get to them. So basically any reason why I would be hesitant or be putting off a book, it goes in the jar. With these 2 prompts, if I complete them, I get to move forward 5 spaces on the board. If I don't complete them, I have to move back 5 spaces. And with the Jar of Despair, as an extra little punishment to myself, if I don't get to this one, the despair part is that I have to go back double the spaces. So if I complete it, I go forward 5. If I don't, I go back 10. I really need to get to these. But I also now am absolutely dreading pulling these, as one can expect. And then why are we actually doing the board in the first place? So at the end of each of the pathways are these little cards. They're not currently on there. So we have 3 dead ends, which are bonus challenge prompts. So the first one we have is Dead End, a book you've been putting off. I've got 550-page book and complete a series. And then when I finally get the winning pathway, I get to choose a reward. And last year I had sort of prompt cards to pick from and that chose my reward. This year I am choosing my own reward. So it might be that I go for a little take myself on a bookish date. It might be that I visit somewhere bookishly related, like go to Stratford-upon-Avon for the day or a weekend to be in the world of Shakespeare, do something like that. Or it might be to go on a bit of a book spending spree. Or I might even decide, you know what, I'm going to pick 3 people from the comments on that particular video and they will be gifted a book from their wish list. Something that brings me joy to do with books and reading that isn't something I do all the time. That is that. And then on the topic of rewards, obviously the game aim is to try and get to that reward token, but there is one other way that I can get that reward early or get a bonus reward. And that is if I read all of the books for that month, I get an extra reward that I can cash in. So we shall see how often I never get that. That is the rules. It sounds very complex. It sounds really complicated. Even writing it down and trying to think of how best to describe it and break it down to you guys, I was getting a bit of a headache. But that is the updated full rules. So obviously if you're new or if you just, it's been a while so you needed a refresher, this is where I'm at with the board for 2025. That means it's now time to actually go to the roles and see what we're going to be getting for March of 2025, which is the first TBR using this game, using the updated game this year. So let's go roll some dice and see what we get and pray the board doesn't hate us. Just going to do a little figure out where, like shuffle the pathway end cards so I don't know which is which. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have my little character. This is my Tharanel, my little character that I use for this game and is my character in the Aurelium and was my first character in D&D and in World of Warcraft. Basically it's a character name and I've had different iterations of this character for about 15 years now. And we roll to find out which pathway we're doing first. We have pathway 3. So 1, 2, starting down here. Our first roll of 2025. Whoop, whoop, whoop. You son of an actual bitch. Well, shit. So we have Jar of Despair, which is apt. Okay. And we have, please be a good one. To kill a fae. I believe that's one of my Stuff Your Kindle. This is off to an ominous start. This is great. This is great. Roll number 2. We have a 5, which is a blank, and these are our blank cards. So we have Reapers with ebook as the bonus prompt. Roll number 3. Is a 1. We land on an adventurer's log space. So the log today, we are reflecting on the merchant. So a metal used for currency in the title. So gold, silver, platinum. Roll number 4. Ooh, 6. Don't you dare. Hey, that means that there's no double ups. Thank you, board. No! Yeah, I am noisy because fuck my life. No double ups, but the board's a bitch because we got another one of these. Jesus Christ, I hate my life. Okay. First one was nice. Second one's gonna be like something I hate. We have Claiming Mia, which is like somethingwolves.com. It's like a shifter romance, and that one was definitely stuff your Kindle. Okay, roll number 5. It is a 4. We have a blank space. This is a booktuber's favourite and ebook as the bonus. Our final roll is going to be 3. Ooh, we get to get one of the new cards. So this is an adventurer's challenge. So I've got to draw one of my challenge prompts. I do plan on picking books that are to try and complete my Our Fantasy board for 2024 because March, I think, is the final month for that. Let's see if I can try and get, that would be nice if I can get that one, as I'm already doing that, but it won't because it's me and it won't do that. Nope, knew it wouldn't. So I've got to choose a beat the backlist prompt. Those are our prompts or books. Let's go find the books for those final prompts. Genuinely, it ended up being really easy to pick books. I think it took me less than 5 minutes to choose my books because some I immediately knew what I was going for and the rest I just had to quickly scroll through my phone. So, Jar of Despair was the first roll, which was To Kill a Fae by Jamie A. Waters. I've got it here so I can tell you what the book is about. Marked for death, Sabine escaped from her home more than 10 years ago, but the wild hunt will never give up. When a charismatic stranger arrives, Sabine finds herself unwittingly drawn to the power she can sense hidden within him. Keeping her distance is nearly impossible, especially after a life debt is called due and she's tasked into helping steal a rare artifact. Sabine is the only one who can break the magical barriers protecting the item, but that means revealing the truth about her identity and exposing her darkest secrets. Unfortunately, the Fae aren't the only ones hunting her, and the most dangerous monsters aren't always confined to the dark. So it sounds really cool. Second book was Reapers and was another ebook, and I've gone with, I think it's called Reaper versus Keeper? Keeper versus Reaper, The Graveyard Guardians, Book 1 by Jennifer Malone Wright. This was another one that I picked up from Stuff Your Kindle, not gonna lie, it was a bit of a cover pick, and also Reapers, I'm realising, are a bit of a buzzword for me, so when I redo my buzzword bingo, Reapers is going to probably be on there. After her father dies, Lucy May Esmond inherited the family business. She is in charge of watching over the souls of the recently passed and protecting them from the Reapers, who are these soul-eating plague that have been stealing souls and leaving the Keepers as the only thing that stands between heaven and hell. They hate each other. They've been at war for generations, and then she discovers that she is in fact the chosen one, who is the one destined to bring an end to this entire war. It says, when she meets Jack Walker, they both realise they have an insane mutual attraction. Too bad that he's been sent to prevent the prophecy from coming true. His only mission, to kill the chosen one. So I feel like he might be a Reaper or something by the fact that it's called Keeper vs Reaper. We'll see how it goes. This one is 298 pages, so shouldn't take me too long to do. And then we come into the first of 2 enormous books. I have been saying for months that when I am back in England, the first TBR that I do, these 2 books are going on my TBR. I'm going to finish this series. I'm going to be destroyed. And I am staying true to my word. For Merchant, so a book with a metal that's used for coins in the title. I've covered it because I've got it in my protector ready so I don't scuff the beautiful white cover. We have Gold by Raven Kennedy. This is book 5 in the Plated Prisoner series. Not gonna lie, I have been kind of putting off reading this because partly I knew that there was going to be the 6th and final book, so I wanted to wait for that to come out. And then when it did, I left the country only a few weeks later, so I was like, I'm not getting to those by then. but also I've heard some not amazing things about book 5 in particular that takes the story in a direction I don't know if I'm going to enjoy. And it has a trope in that I cannot stand. But I'm hoping that maybe it won't be as bad as all that. But yeah, we have big chonker. Like, this is the, I think this is the second biggest book in the series. This one comes in at over 600. Yeah, it's like 650 for this one. So gold, book 5 in the Plated Prisoner will get done. Then it was the jar, which was Claiming Mia. And I said in the video, like, I think it's like .com or something, and I was kind of right. It was .com Wolves, and I was right that it's a paranormal shifter romance. So we've got, oh god, it's 500 pages. I've got 3 chonkers this month. Oh no, I did not think this one through. Oh no. Okay, I really hope that I'm not going to enjoy this one so I can just early DNF. Lucas has lost his mate and he'll never claim another. His kind of broken can't be fixed until she comes along. Do you know what? I don't want to read this. Reading it here, I'm like, he's lost his mate, he's broken, but he's still alpha enough to save her, and now she's his sexy new receptionist. That's such a disservice to your mate. Like, I'm fully believer in, like, if your spouse dies, you should move on and find happiness again. But the way that's been written, I feel like I'm not going to enjoy the way that's going to happen. I'm just going to unshelve that and unhaul that without reading it. Thank God this isn't my Read It or Reap challenge. But instead, I'm going to draw a new one. We have... Ooh! Okay, I like this because that swaps a big chunker for a nice little, I think this one's only like a 4 or 5 hour audiobook, and that is Girl of Ink and Stars by Kieran Millward Hardgrave, and it's just a YA adventure story about a girl who's trying to rescue, like find her dad who's gone missing. I'm pretty sure it's something like that. That's a nice, short, quick audiobook. I can do that. I'm saying that after having done no audiobooks yet this year. Then we had Booktuber's Fave. This one gave me a bit of a headache because when I went through, I saw 2 books immediately that I was like, ooh, I could pick those for this person. And then remembered that for my Bookishly Compatible series, that person is the next person that I'm going to be doing, and those 2 books should be saved for that. So I was like, okay, I need to come up with someone else. So I was scrolling through and then I was like, okay, maybe this one. But then I was like, again, for a future Bookishly Compatible, I think. And I was like, oh my god, what the hell. Eventually I settled on God Killer by Hannah Kaner because not just one of my bookish friends, but multiple of my bookish friends have said that this is one of, if not their all-time favourite book and series. I have this as an art galley. I said an art galley net. I have this as a NetGalley arc. It's less than 300 pages, which does make me nervous for a fantasy, but I have been told it's amazing. In this one, we have Kissen, who is the main character, and she is basically a god killer and goes on adventures. I believe there's disability rep in this as well. After Kissen's family were killed by zealots, she's now zealots of a fire god. She now hates all gods, been trying to kill them, until she comes across one that she can't kill who is bound to a young noble, and the pair of them are now on the run from unknown assassins. It says, joined by a disillusioned knight on a secret quest, they must travel to the ruined city of Blenraden, where the last of the wild gods resides, to each beg a favour. Pursued by demons and in the midst of a burgeoning civil war, they will all face a reckoning. Something is rotting at the heart of their world, and only they can be the ones to stop it. I'm looking forward to that. And then the final one, you probably already guessed what it's going to be based on what I said earlier, but for the Beat the Backlist, the prompt that I have chosen for this, more than 30 chapters, this one has 70 chapters and more. That was the last one that I saw, so it has more than 70, so we are good. But that is the final book in the Plated Prisoner series, Goldfinch by Raven Kennedy. So yeah, I plan on reading both of these if I can and get this series finished and probably get my heart destroyed in the process. But obviously I'm not going to say anything about this, partly because I've not looked it up myself. I don't want to know. And partly because, obviously, spoilers with it being the finale of a 6-part series. These are the only physical books that I have. Everything else is all ebook or... But look at the size of the stack just from physical books. 2 books. It's like 3 or 4 of my usual books. I'm gonna die. That is my TBR for March and the updated rules and everything for the board. Let me know in the comments if you remember all of the games that I've done before, and if you remember my TBR pursuit that I did for a little while. You've been here for a long time, so let me know. I always want to know who's been around for quite a while. So if you remember the Trivial Pursuit, the TBR pursuit board, let me know. Or if you are kind of new, let me know if you have any reading plans or readathons or anything like that that you're taking part in March. I do want to give a big shout out to the Thick Thighs readathon that is happening in the first week of March. I haven't included any of the books that I'm reading for that because I will be doing that as its own vlog. In the meantime, I hope you're all good. I hope you're staying safe. Don't forget to check out my Patreon and Etsy, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.